How's it going, everyone? This is Chris Rickenbaugh with another episode of the Figuring It Out Finance Podcast, episode number 81. Now, this is a podcast where I am documenting my journey in real estate and business while also talking a bit about travel hacking and personal finance. Today's show is going to be all about real estate and how I got started. But before we hop into that, go ahead and follow me on all the socials where I post daily on Instagram and TikTok. And then all of the podcasts are posted on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and YouTube, where you can check out all the podcasts and as well as figuringitoutfinance.com. So, jumping into today's episode. So the current flip, this is being recorded on Friday, November 1st, and we finally have the permit to be able to go through. So now the inspection is scheduled for next Tuesday when I record podcasts. So hopefully I'll have a better update then. But good news is we have the permit, and now it's just up to the inspection. So hopefully that gets passed. We can knock this thing out in a week and a half, and get it up on the market. So, everything going pretty well on that side. Where we have probably about five or six offers out on flips potentially. So, going to walk one tomorrow. I've walked a couple this week, so hopefully we get another one under contract here soon. But into my story, and the main part of the podcast today is how I got started in real estate. So I was always kind of interested in houses and designing houses when I was growing up, but I was really, when COVID hit, I was looking at books on how to invest, what to invest in. So I kind of started where everybody else did, is in stocks, because that's what's mostly talked about. So I started playing around with that on Robinhood, and I bought a book or two, and it just, I'm like, this just doesn't work for me. So I finally picked up Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I kept hearing real estate. So I finally said, all right, well, I might as well just get a book. So on January 1st in 2022, I bought Brandon Turner's book on the book on rental property investing. So that book was a complete game changer to me. So it, highlighted all of rental properties, investing, flips, the BRRRR method, and it just plain made sense to me. So where I went from there, I started consuming all of the Bigger Pockets books, their podcasts, and then I got an account to where I was starting to interact with people. So right when I graduated, I got it was kind of like an internship, but it was just for the summer. So what I did there was I had a 1099, and it wasn't a normal W-2. So it was only for a short amount of time, and that didn't qualify me to buy a house. So I knew I was looking for a duplex. I had one under contract, but the problem was it wasn't a normal W-2. It was only the 1099 for a short 8-week or 10-week period. So it didn't qualify for the mortgage, and we were 3 days away from closing, and we had to let it go. So as soon as later in the year, when I officially got hired in November, I was able to get another house under contract and officially close on that one in a small town of Kannapolis. Just a little 2-bed, 1-bath, 850 square foot house. Needed a little bit of work, so I knew that was going to be coming up around the corner, and I was going to have to figure out how to fund the project. And in the meantime, I was going to be renting out the other room in the house. So I went ahead and painted the one room that was completely unpainted, and then got the other roommate moved in. So he was paying me $700 a month for a room. And, that when my mortgage was $1,200, that cut down on it quite a bit, over about 60%. So that was a good chunk for me to be able to keep working, save money, and then figure out how to do the renovation. So it was going to be about, I thought, a $30,000 renovation, and it ended up being right about $45,000. So what I did with the house, I did a full redo of the bathroom. I did the flooring. I had to get all new windows installed throughout the house. Some little odds and ends things here and there. Move some water. Move the washer and dryer around in the house so it's a little bit more usable. And then I installed a concrete driveway. So that makes the house a lot nicer. Did the landscaping all myself, so it looks a little rough, but it still works, and I got it done for a little bit cheaper than hiring out a company. So I did that, and then how I did it and how I financed it was I was on Bigger Pockets. I was trying to figure out if hard money worked for it or if I was going to have to go down a different route. And it didn't qualify for a hard money person, but what a Bigger Pockets person said, I can go out to credit cards on 0 APR. And then he taught me how to do it. He said, hey, sign up for this card, get the bonus, and then ask to increase your balance up to $30,000 from $10,000. So I did that. It worked perfectly. And then I got the second card for another $10,000. So I had access to $40,000, and that was able to complete all of my renovations. And then I financed the driveway with the company that did the driveway. And then I installed a fence along the side, which I paid for on the 0 APR card. So I had this entire project financed on credit. And then the plan was to be able to refinance or get a 95% loan-to-value HELOC, which I ended up getting in March of this year. So I ended up being able to pull all that I needed out of the house that I had put into it with the new appraised value from buying it at $157 and now appraising for $220. So I was able to pull all of that amount out, pay off the card, or rack up a ton of credit card points that I was going to be able to use to go to Hawaii. And then as soon as I pulled that money out, what I did was quit my job. So I was doing sales for a startup company at that time, and I said, all right, this isn't enough for me. I'm not making enough money here to be able to, support myself without putting in, a ridiculous amount of time. And then what was going to be coming in wasn't enough. So I said, all right, time to leave the job to go figure it out. So, in that meantime of reading the first books of Brandon Turner's books and then buying my own personal house, I was going to meetups in the area. So that was the Pints and Properties meetup run by Shelby Osborne, who is now Shelby Johnson, moved up to Lexington, Kentucky, but where I was able to get connected with their group. I started going to their book club, and then, just attending the regular meetups in the area, starting to get to know people. And I really didn't have a whole use for the meetups at that time because, I wasn't investing. I was just, trying to save up money, looking for the next opportunity. So when I quit my job, I finally had a reason to be able to go to those meetups because when I started flipping, I'm like, oh, I actually need to talk to wholesalers. Oh, I actually need to find hard money people. And then you connect with the wholesalers, the lenders, other investors, what are they doing? So a couple weeks in after I quit my job and we went to Colombia for a week, what we did after that was I'm like, all right, so I read Brian Lubin's book, how he quit his job, and then he started up his podcast. So I got my Instagram and TikTok up and running, and then I got the website up and running. And then I said, all right, I need to have some real estate goals because I was doing the 12-week year. So if you don't know what that book is, go check it out. Highly, highly recommend it. And then what I did after that was just what I was doing was I was setting my real estate goals. So I said, all right, I need to walk 5 houses this week. So that's what I did. So I called up 3 to 5 people. I walked 2 in one day. And on the second one, I met my partner, who's actually an agent. She's an investor. And, helped. I said, well, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking to do, call expired listings, looking for subject to opportunities. And she said, well, I don't have enough time to hop on those calls. Why don't you do it for me? So we set it up the next day or two to where we did a little bit of training, and then I was kind of off on my own. So I got a couple appointments, got one listing for her, and then I started looking around, for hard money to be able to do a flip myself. Found one in Kannapolis, and I knocked that one out. So I had detailed the entire process on that from beginning to end through this podcast, from leaving the job, what I was looking for, how I was doing it, a little bit about my experience reading the books, which I'm describing now, and then, leading up to buying that first flip, which is starting to which is documented all on this podcast. So how I bought the first flip, it was pretty simple. It was my mentor and my partner now. She said, all right, go to this company, get qualified for a hard money lender. So I did that. They gave me terms. All right, you need to bring this about $35,000 down to be able to close on this house that I found. And I said, all right, put the due diligence down, got it inspected, and we were off to the races. And then I connected with another investor who I met back when my personal house was getting renovated, because I stayed at his Airbnb. And then he was my first money partner, who is still invested with me in flip number 2. So, it all connected, and his buddy, who's a general contractor now, was able to pull in a crew that he knew from Connecticut, which drove down, knocked out my house and that flip in 12 days, and then went right back out. So it was all really, 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 really quick. And, it was hard to understand. So in the selling process, that's when I found flip number 2, which I'm currently still working on. But we're just about to that finish line now. So as soon as that house was sold, 2 days later, we had the funds going right back out into this new house that's been going on right now. So, from beginning to end, it was all about getting bored during COVID, starting to read books, played a little bit around with stocks, and then I found real estate books. And then within a year of reading that first real estate book, I bought my first personal house. Then it was off to the races from there. Did a live-in renovation, rented out the other room, and house hacked. Then pulled the money out, left the job, and said, all right, let's figure it out in real estate. And then doing the expired listing calls, I was eventually able to buy my first fix and flip, which got knocked out really quickly within 12 days. And then after the sale of that one, 2 days later, we bought the second flip, which is currently going on. So that is the short story of the longer story I just told, but that is how I got started in real estate and leading up to right now to what I'm doing, and bigger things on the horizon as we have a couple offers out on properties that I'm pretty excited for. That could be quick flips, that could be, quick wholesales. And then I joined Cam Cathcart Steel Flow in the process. So lots of action being taken. I'm really pumped for the last 2 months here to see what happens, be able to get flip number 2 sold and roll into hopefully flip 3 and 4 before the end of the year. So in closing, take the leap and dive in. So if I didn't read that first real estate book, I would not be in real estate. And if I didn't buy my personal house and house hack that first one, and then be able to, work with the contractors on this first property, I wouldn't have the experience that I do now, to where I understand kind of like the surface level and maybe like a couple feet down about what's going on, how to do it, how to run a renovation, how the contractors work and get paid. I had to take that action, and now I'm a lot more comfortable with it because I have somebody who I can hire that I can hand that to, and he takes care of that all. So it allows me to go look for more opportunities. And then leaving this is taking action is the only way to progress. So again, taking action is the only way to go forward, because if you're just reading and consuming information, that's good because you're going to have the knowledge, but knowledge isn't action. Knowledge isn't going to swing the hammer. So make sure to take action, and that's exactly what I'm doing, reaching out to a lot of different people, learning so much right now in this real estate game, and getting really pumped for the last 2 months and the start of 2025. So that's all for this podcast, episode number 81, all about how I got started in real estate. And I'm going to be back on Monday, on Tuesday, hopefully with a completed inspection, getting ready to finish up flip number 2. So this is Chris Rickenbaugh signing off for the Figuring It Out Finance podcast, episode 81.